Right now, as we speak, not earlier, not this morning, but right now, currently, as I'm recording this video, Cloudflare is still offline. We're actually several hours into a major global outage that's affecting platforms like ChatGPT, X, Spotify, Shopify, Canva, and many, many more. Millions of users are impacted, and the story is currently being reported live by AP News, Reuters, and The Guardian, among others. And my personal experience is I actually woke up just a few hours ago here to a pile of pingdom alerts telling me that all my sites, well, not all of them, but most of my sites were down, even though every part of my infrastructure, including the hypervisors, the servers, routing, BGP failover, and more, was fully up and operational. My systems didn't fail, my dependency did. And in this video, we're going to talk about what this outage means, especially for mid-market businesses and enterprises, and what you might be able to do to reduce your dependence on big tech and big cloud. Hi, I'm Justin Keltner, founder of Liberate Your Cloud. We help mid-market IT teams slash infrastructure costs 40 to 70% and eliminate single vendor choke points like the one causing today's outage. In this video, we're going to break down why exactly this Cloudflare outage is bigger than just a technical hiccup, what it reveals about dependency risk across the entire industry, including critical systems like nuclear facility access that we're also depending on Cloudflare, and the specific strategic shifts that CIOs and IT directors need to make to avoid being taken offline by someone else's outage ever again. If that's the kind of straight to the point IT strategy that you want on your YouTube feed and you want to see more of that sort of content, please subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss a single video. Hit that notification bell and also hit that like button because it helps us reach more IT leaders with this content. If you're interested in getting support with your own private cloud implementations as well, or just consultation on reliability and more in business and how you can actually be resilient to a lot of things like this, then just go to liberateyourcloud.com and you can book a call right there with me and my team. Now, here's the real problem. It's a live outage, of course, with a critical impact, and because Cloudflare remains down at its proxy and core edge, there's so many sites that are down right now, including many of my own. We see kind of they're coming back up, they're going back offline. We're not exactly sure what's happening. It seems like they're fixing it. It doesn't seem like a cyber attack. It's just, a line of code somewhere that somebody pushed, or perhaps some AI pushed. I don't know. But there was an update in the system from what they're saying, and it brought many, many websites offline, including the ones that I mentioned earlier. Millions of users are now impacted, and thousands are reporting outages in real time. One critical example of what's happening is the PADS, or Personal Access Data System, used for background checks and worker authorization, even in the US nuclear industry, is indirectly affected. Now, the good news, it's not actually controlling nuclear reactors themselves, but it does control who's allowed inside those nuclear plants. And it's also disrupted because of a Cloudflare dependency. This isn't some kind of trivial downtime. This just shows how deep Cloudflare's influence runs across essential infrastructure. And you saw the same thing very recently with AWS as well. And it just goes to show that the real lesson here is that centralization itself is a huge liability. You can build an extremely resilient internal infrastructure just like we have for our own brands and sites. But as we're learning ourselves even more and more today, if everything sits behind a single vendor's proxy or DNS layer, your availability is based on their uptime. And today's outage really just demonstrates how this shared fate architecture collapses thousands of organizations simultaneously. We've seen this, like I mentioned, with AWS when that went down just a few short weeks ago. We've seen this with Azure. We've seen this with Google Cloud, and now it's Cloudflare again. And I really think that resilience at the edge is becoming the single biggest point of failure in modern IT. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what our core values here as our business, as our consulting business are, and specifically around infrastructure and data sovereignty and why that all matters. So you really want to have a redundant private or hybrid cloud that shifts control back to you. You want to be able to restore your own routing independence, reduce your blast radius if there is some sort of issue with the vendor. It's not going to take down your entire website, your customer-facing infrastructure, and so much more. Obviously, lowering your cost volatility as well, because this is costing organizations tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point already, just as of the filming of this video a few hours into this outage. You can take advantage of things that are already offered by your data center for much of what Cloudflare does. So for example, one of the reasons that we've used Cloudflare and that other companies, including clients of ours, have used Cloudflare are things like the DDoS protection, which tends to be part of most modern data center infrastructure anyway. Of course, there are other things like connectivity and like different CDN benefits that it gives you, like having your static content available at many edge sites, but you can also replicate that as well. And believe it or not, it's not that expensive. If you're interested in learning more, definitely go to liberateyourcloud.com and book that consultation there. Another thing you can do in addition to relying and switching that reliance on Cloudflare to your internal architecture, like the protection that your data center probably already offers you, is having other lightweight in-house defenses. So these can be things like fail to ban on your server, geofencing admin access, and other surfaces that you don't want, let's say the general public having access to. Maybe you just want to geofence that to a certain country, and then local web application firewall appliances as well. Those can handle most real-world threats without a giant proxy in the middle that is so vulnerable to failure. Now, I'll add another thing that we're personally experiencing, which is to add insult to injury, even the DNS is locked up. So Cloudflare's dashboard is also overloaded or inaccessible. I can't get to it at all. And what that means for our business right now, as we realize that there are probably things we can do to even make our infrastructure more resilient, and also for companies that are depending on this, is they can't change their DNS records. They can't even disable this Cloudflare proxy to be able to point traffic elsewhere. And in a lot of cases, they can't even trigger emergency failover. For us specifically, we have multiple points of presence. We have multiple data centers. We have our own load balancing and high availability proxies. But unfortunately, right now, the majority of our sites are actually behind Cloudflare's own DNS and proxy and load balancing. So that's not going to help us very much. And many even have their domain registration, as do we, with some of our domains at Cloudflare, which kind of doubles the single point of failure. This is not just something that we're reporting on casually and saying, hey, you should do this. We're actively going to be migrating a lot of these things off of here ourselves, because this is sort of the extra straw here that breaks the camel's back. We're going to move our domain registrations off Cloudflare exactly for that reason. So here's our path forward and what CIOs should do next. So like I mentioned, we're moving all of our sites to an in-house application firewall with multi-data center redundancy, making Cloudflare optional instead of mandatory. I would strongly recommend that CIOs use this outage to reevaluate their dependency at the edge, map their proxy and DNS and vendor choke points, create a failover path independent of vendor dashboards and vendor systems. You want to treat your edge infrastructure as mission critical, just like you do with your own internal servers, and perhaps build long-term vendor independence into your architecture and budgeting. Here's the bottom line. Outages like this are not just technical events, they're board-level risk events. If your business went down today because Cloudflare went down, that's not a Cloudflare problem, that's a you problem. That's really large-scale architectural exposure, and your business cannot afford to be so dependent. Your executive team expects you to control your own availability in terms of your infrastructure. Your clients also expect you to stay online. And regulators, especially in industries like finance, healthcare, and energy, expect you to eliminate single points of failure, not build your business on top of them. Today is the reminder that digital resilience cannot be outsourced. If your edge, your DNS, and all your routing all hinge on one vendor, then you've traded convenience for fragility, and that trade-off no longer makes sense for mid-market companies with real revenue on the line. If this outage forced you to answer some uncomfortable questions from your leadership team, don't ignore that. It's the perfect moment to reevaluate your dependency stack, diversify your edge, and build a path back to infrastructure sovereignty where your uptime is under your control again, not someone else's. If you want help figuring out what this looks like in your environment for your organization, I offer a free consult if you qualify at liberateyourcloud.com. You can also grab our infrastructure sovereignty checklist at liberateyourcloud.com/checklist. Make sure that you subscribe if you want CIO level strategy that is practical and also vendor independent and vendor neutral. Subscribe to this channel, hit that like button if you haven't already. It helps us out a ton, and stick around for the next video coming out very soon. Thanks so much.